By Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. He's Hacker.
Talk about a fried egg. I lasted about 5 minutes out there. I said, to heck with this. I'll do this in the morning. And I don't have any inside information. The lady that did it, she got in there. She made it happen.
And he doesn't shy away from opinion.
And I do enjoy drinking cold beer at ballparks. So if that makes me a baseball fan, then I'm a diehard baseball fan.
It's Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
And a very good Thursday evening to you, Jacksonville. It is Hacker After Dark, 1010XL, 92.5 FM with Dylan Denmark. The Hacker Ryan Green with you. Glad you are with us, as boy, we have a ton of Jacksonville Jaguar news items to discuss. Obviously, the re-signings of Ezra Cleveland and Daniel Thomas from earlier today. In fact, news coming out within the last, couple of minutes as well, revolving a restructuring of a contract here in Jacksonville, which we will certainly get to. You had defensive guys getting cut yesterday. It has been a very, very active 36-hour period, starting with the Fatukasi cut, going into Rayshon Jenkins, going into Darius Williams, the franchise tag for Josh Allen. Apparently, Ian Rappaport, about 40 minutes ago as well, said Brandon Sheriff is going to restructure his contract. So it looks like both guards, Brandon Sheriff and Ezra Cleveland, will both be sticking around here in Jacksonville. And that's very interesting because the Jaguar offensive line left a lot to be desired at the end of the year. And it appears there's not going to be a lot of changes to that offensive line. We'll get to all of that in a moment. Guest lineup tonight looks like this. Mike DiRocco, ESPN.com. We'll have D-Rock up here in less than 15 minutes to talk about everything that has transpired with the Jacksonville Jaguars in the last 2 days. Also, John Shipley of Jaguar Report will join us as well. We will also go down to Gainesville, talk a little Gators spring ball. David Waters of the Gators Breakdown podcast. He does a really good job with that podcast. We'll talk to David as well about spring ball with the Florida Gators that began today, year number 3 of spring football for Billy Napier. So we are absolutely loaded. We are glad you are with us. We will also keep you up to date on Stetson and JU in the Atlantic Sun semifinal. The JU Dolphins find themselves only 2 wins away from an NCAA tournament berth. And we will keep you updated. The last score I had was 45-40 Stetson, a back-and-forth game, no question about it. But we'll keep you updated on that score as well. But every night here on Hacker After Dark, we do kick it off with a big deal of the night. And Dylan Denmark. Let's do that right now.
Time now for the big deal of the night.
What's the big deal?
What is the big deal?
No big deal.
It is a big deal.
On Hacker After Dark.
Okay. I'm trying to find some answers for you about the offensive line situation here in Jacksonville. They were bad last year. There is no question about that. They were not good at all, particularly towards the end of the year. Now, a couple of things you can say about that. Cam Robinson missed 8 games. All right? Suspension, injury, he missed a lot of time. Brandon Sheriff was playing injured. They traded for Ezra Cleveland. I don't think he was fully healthy. Anton Harrison was a rookie who was learning the ropes of the league. And Luke Fortner, I don't really have an explanation for that one. So if you're looking for a glass half full point of view on this, there is potential with that offensive line, and they did not play as a healthy, cohesive unit, but for, I believe, 1 game last season where you had Robinson, Cleveland, Fortner, Sheriff, and Harrison. A lot of injuries, suspensions, Just things were not good along the line. A lot of shuffling back and forth. That's the glass half full approach. If you want me to be the glass half empty guy, the offensive line was awful. Travis Etienne was tackled 3 yards in the backfield more times than I can count. Trevor Lawrence was getting knocked around pretty good. And on the most important play of the season, your season on the line, 4th and goal, 1 yard line in Nashville 60 days ago, you could not gain a half a yard because your center got pushed backwards and essentially sacked your quarterback. So the fact that it appears that offensive line is going to be brought back intact is very surprising to me. I thought there was a chance they would cut Cam Robinson. They appear they're not going to do that. I didn't know if Ezra Cleveland was going to be brought back. He got re-signed today. Anton Harrison was the one guy you knew was in the fold, and I'm happy with him at right tackle. Brandon Sheriff, you thought he might be a cap casualty. Apparently that's no longer the case. We still don't have clarity on Luke Fortner, but based on everything we've heard from Trent Baalke and Doug Peterson, it's certainly not doom and gloom when you talk about Luke Fortner. They still believe in Luke going into year 3. So the likelihood is very high that the Jaguars' offensive line will be the same as what we all thought was one of the worst offensive lines in football at the end of the year. That's the reality of where you are. Again, if you want me to be positive guy, that fivesome, Robinson, Cleveland, Fortner, Sheriff, and Harrison did not play many snaps together. Very, very few. Hopefully in 2024, injuries don't accumulate, suspensions don't happen, and maybe we're singing a different tune about that offensive line. But for the here and now, I understand why fans are frustrated that it looks like they're going to run it back with that same group. My question is, what does that mean for Walker Little? Walker Little, a second-round pick, was seemingly pretty good when he got a shot at left tackle. Now they're not going to be able to find a spot on the field for him. If Robinson remains, right? If Harrison's your right tackle, which he is, then you got your guards apparently set up. Ezra Cleveland gets re-signed. It appears Brandon Sheriff is restructuring. Well, then where does that leave Walker Little? It leaves him without a spot, is what it does. It leaves him without a spot on the starting 5. So that'll be very interesting to see what happens with that situation. As for the Ezra Cleveland re-signing, I'm okay with it. I saw a lot of people that were ripping that decision, ripping Trent Baalke. I've told you guys this, some of you, if not most of you, for a while now. Those of you that do not like Trent Baalke, it doesn't matter what he does at this point. You're past the point of no return. It doesn't matter. I mean, he could tell you that there's 24 hours in a day and you would find fault with it somewhere and want to argue with him about that. He could say, you know what, there's 60 seconds in a minute, and you would find a reason to argue with him and tell him he's an idiot and tell him he's wrong. It doesn't matter what he says. It doesn't matter what he does. You're going to find flaw with it. I don't find flaw with this Ezra Cleveland deal. It looks like it's going to be relatively cheap. You look at the guard market, look at what Dotson got out west in the West Coast earlier today, way more than what Ezra Cleveland got. Robert Hunt in Miami, other guys are going to get a lot of money. Cleveland, 3 years, $28 million, $14 million guaranteed. I think you're fine with that. Cleveland's a guy that they brought in. I thought he was your best interior offensive lineman down the stretch of the season. Now, I know that's not saying a whole lot, right? That's like saying I'm the best golfer in my house. Well, I have a 4-year-old and my wife doesn't play. So by default, I'm the best golfer in the house. Cleveland, I don't think was good, but I think he was the best of what they had there between he, Sheriff, and Fortner towards the end of the year. But I saw enough of him to give him a shot. I don't hate that re-signing. I know a lot of people on social media particularly hated it today. I'm not there. I don't hate that. I'm fine if Ezra Cleveland is your starting left guard. And he has position flexibility, right? He started a game at left tackle last year against the Cleveland Browns. So heaven forbid if injuries accumulate, Cleveland's a guy that could play multiple positions on that offensive line. So I'm not going to necessarily give it 2 thumbs up, but I'm not poo-pooing it like a lot of you guys did earlier. I'm okay with Ezra Cleveland being back in Jacksonville. Daniel Thomas, I like that. The guy's arguably your best special teamer. He's certainly in the top 2 or 3 of your special teamers. It's a cheap deal. 2 years, $4 million, could be worth up to $6 million with incentives for a guy that's a very good special teams player. In a pinch, he could be a decent backup safety. I don't think you want him starting. If he's starting at safety, there's obviously injuries back there. But for what he is, he and Dewey Wingard, 2 nice special teams pieces. I'm fine with Daniel Thomas being brought back. So that's the big news in Jacksonville. Ezra Cleveland gets re-signed. Daniel Thomas gets re-signed. Ian Rappaport reporting that Brandon Sheriff is going to restructure his deal to presumably save the Jaguars some cap room this year. And here we go. That's going to be your starting offensive line. Monday is the day negotiations can begin around the National Football League. You can officially sign guys to new contracts on Wednesday. Now everybody's waiting for Calvin Ridley. Other Jaguar free agents to be: Brandon McManus, DeJuan Smoot, Tyler Shatley, Jamal Agnew, Trey Herndon, Kayvon Chason. I got to be honest with you. I don't know how many of those guys are going to be brought back. Do you bring back DeJuan Smoot on a veteran minimum deal? See what he's got? Jamal Agnew, didn't you find his replacement presumably in Parker Washington? Trey Herndon, I don't think he's in the plans. Although Trey Herndon's like Michael Myers, right? You think he's gone and he just keeps showing up, which is good for him. He keeps making the roster, getting on the field. He's earned that playing time, but I think certainly they could upgrade there. Tyler Shatley, do you bring him back? A veteran on this team? Kayvon Chason, no. No. Fresh start for both. Kayvon needs a fresh start, and Jacksonville needs to erase the thought of the 2020 draft. Whatever memories you have of the 2020 draft, I hope you had a great time with your friends. I hope the pizza tasted good. I hope the beer was cold. Because that 2020 draft, at least the first 2 rounds, are the worst 2 rounds in the history of the Jacksonville Jaguars. C.J. Henderson, Kayvon Chason, and Laviska Shenault. Those are the 3 guys you chose in the top 45 picks of that draft. You had 3 picks in the top 45 just a couple of years ago, 2020. And you drafted C.J. Henderson, Kayvon Chason, and Laviska Shenault. Good grief. Absolutely atrocious. And you wonder why Jacksonville is where they've been for a long time. Well, they had a horrible general manager in Dave Caldwell, just awful. Anybody that gives Trent Baalke grief, Baalke's head and shoulders better than that guy. I don't think Baalke's very good either, but if given the choice of Trent Baalke and Dave Caldwell, are you kidding me? I'll take Trent Baalke every day of the week and twice on Sunday over Dave Caldwell. But back to the original point, Kayvon Chason probably needs a fresh start. The Jaguars need a fresh start. What do you do with Brandon McManus? What kind of market will he have? You got to go out and find a kicker if you lose him. Now, I know they brought back Riley Patterson, but they cut Riley Patterson because they had Brandon McManus. So that's going to be interesting if McManus leaves in free agency. So there's a lot of in-house free agents you got to figure out what you're doing with. First and foremost, Calvin Ridley. Again, I've told you guys all week now that Josh Allen was franchised. I've always thought if Ridley got into the market, I thought he was out of here, and I believe Ridley is probably out of here. We'll see what happens, but I don't like the Jaguars' chances of re-signing Calvin Ridley. So, that's where we are. Josh Allen franchised. Ezra Cleveland re-signed. Daniel Thomas re-signed. Brandon Sheriff restructured. And Foley Fatukasi, Darius Williams, and Rayshawn Jenkins released. All of this has happened in the last 2 days. It has been hot, it has been heavy, and even more will happen next week when free agency begins in the National Football League. Let me quickly welcome in Dylan Denmark. Denmark, it's a reunification, man. I've missed you.
Yeah, it's been, last time I saw you was last Wednesday, and I've been hearing about this 180 stuff, and I can definitely tell you've been using it, man.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, 26 pounds in 2 weeks. It's been wonderful. Still a long way to go. I'm not celebrating with any champagne. This is a long journey, but 2 weeks in, very happy. And Dylan, your thoughts on everything the Jaguars have done quickly. We're about to go to Mike DiRocco, but it's been quite the week here in Jacksonville.
Yeah, the only thing that's kind of been a head scratcher to me that was kind of surprised me was the Darius Williams cut. But other than that, I mean, I expected Rayshawn Jenkins and Foley Fatukasi to go. The offensive line's been the topic of conversation the last couple of weeks, and it seems like they're kind of doubling down on what they've been saying the last couple of weeks. And you go back to last year, we all in the pass rush. You got to address pass rush, and then they didn't do anything. And now you got to address the offensive line, and it doesn't seem like they are going to make any changes as of the moment. So it'll be interesting to see with free agency coming up next week.
Yeah, no question. Again, legal tampering Monday and Tuesday, and again, you can sign new contracts with new teams next Wednesday, March the 13th. With Dylan Denmark, the hacker Ryan Green with you on a Thursday night edition of Hacker After Dark, A-Sun semifinal. We are all tied. Jacksonville and Stetson, 51 apiece, 16.5 to go in the ball game. The winner will play for a spot in the NCAA tournament this weekend against the winner of North Alabama and Austin Peay. So we'll keep you updated. Jacksonville and Stetson looks like a good one in the making. Tie ball game, 16:30 to go in the second half. Let's continue the Jaguar talk with my buddy Mike DiRocco. We call him D-Rock, ESPN.com. We'll talk about everything that has transpired this week here in Jacksonville, and that's next. Hacker After Dark on a Thursday here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
Let's find out a little bit more about him from our reporter.
Talented, eccentric, dominating. These are the words that define
Dan Hicken. Mornings on 1010XL. 92.5 FM.
Wintertime at the Blue Crab House. You know what that means. Time for oysters. Buy them by the tray, broiled, half shell with Romano cheese, wine topping, or fried. And of course, each and every Wednesday, $1 oysters at the Blue Crab House. Serving Northeast Florida since 1996. Make reservations by calling 260-CRAB. Jacksonville's best, the Blue Crab House, off of San Jose on Jewington Creek Road.
This is your Mad Dad's Update with Chapter President Donald Ford. Mad Dad's is asking for good, committed men who want to be part of an organization that has been around for 17 years. We are a group that is part of the solution, not the problem. We are a group that don't stand around murmuring and complaining, but get into action and hit the streets to get the community to break the code of silence to remove the murderers off our streets. We do not require a lot of time, just willing and able bodies to get involved. We've had far too many murders this year already not to get involved. If you want to be part of this great organization, call 904-718-1649. We're looking for men, not men acting like boys. Hit me on Facebook and tell me what you think. For information about Mad Dad, Go to Mad Dads Jacksonville chapter Facebook or MadDadsJacksonville.com.
Hacker here for Awaken 180 weight loss. You guys just heard me talking to Denmark in there. 1 week in, 19 pounds. That's what I lost in my first week with Awaken 180. I've heard Matt, I've heard Mike talk about Awaken 180 for a long time. I decided to do it, and man alive, am I happy with the results. Now, 19 pounds in 1 week. That's definitely not the norm necessarily, but when you have the amount of weight that I needed to drop, the results came quick. In just 1 week, I have more energy, and I feel great. Awaken 180 is simple. I'm eating to lose weight, and I'm having fun in the process. Whether you've tried to lose weight 20 times or if this is your first time with Awaken 180, it will be your last time. Fast. I mean fast results, and then you receive free support for life. Make the call, 844-346-1800. That's 844-346-1800 or online, awaken180weightloss.com.
Imagine waking up this time next week and being 100% debt-free. No credit cards, no car loan, no personal loans. Hey, it's Prosser here, and Loan Pronto's Equity Express line of credit can make that happen. Homeowners are turning their home equity into cash almost instantly. With Loan Pronto's AI-based system, you can get approval in about 10 minutes with almost no documentation, no appraisal, and no hassle. You can get hundreds of thousands of dollars out of your home. Use that money to pay off all your other loans. The average homeowner saves over $850 a month doing this. Listen, your home value's way up. You can use that to wipe out all those credit cards, get some money for a home improvement. Literally hundreds of thousands are at your fingertips, and approval is just minutes away. So call now, 904-999-1508, 904-999-1508. That's loanpronto.com at 904-999-1508. NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval, equal housing lender.
The First Coast Games is an annual corporate challenge to introduce fun activities into the workplace and focus on your employees' health and wellness goals, with some friendly competition, of course. Registration is now open through the First Coast YMCA for both recreational and challenge divisions, including pickleball, cornhole, volleyball, flag football, and other team sports. The games will begin in March. Register your company and teams at fcymca.org.
This date in sports history is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
On March 7th, 2016, Peyton Manning announces his retirement from the NFL after 13 seasons with the Colts and 4 with the Broncos.
Make a crucial catch against colon cancer. Hicken here for the Borland Groover Foundation. If you're 45 or older, the ball is in the red zone to get screened. The key to surviving colon cancer, early detection and prevention. 45 is the new 50. Get screened for colon cancer now. The Borland Groover Foundation is a nonprofit organization devoted to building a healthy and equitable community that is free from colon cancer. Visit BorlandGrooverFoundation.com for more.
Men suffering from ED or PE, you'll see instant results on your first visit at Prime Men's Medical Center. For a limited time, your initial consultation and first treatment are totally free. You'll even get a gift that enhances performance in the bedroom. Call 904-664-8217.
We don't have too many cold nights on the First Coast, but when the temperature drops, you want to hit the heat button and warm up. That's where Florida Home comes in. They're the AC experts in Jacksonville, and the importance of keeping your heating system in good working order is really important. If it stops working when it gets cooler, Florida Home will leap into action and provide you with the best solution. Heater and heat pump repair service and new system installation. They do it all. Just call Florida Home AC at 777-4300, the official heating and AC partner of the Jaguars.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Let's ring up another guest on the All-Pro Roofing phone line.
Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. Boy, what a week it's been here in Jacksonville, and free agency doesn't begin until next Monday. We've had a lot of guys being released. We've had a franchise tag, and we've now had a couple of re-signings. Let's talk about all of it with my buddy Mike DeRocco. We lovingly call him D-Rock, ESPN.com. He's always kind enough to join us here on Hacker After Dark. Mike, how we doing?
Doing well. How are you doing?
Mike, we're good. I know it's been a busy week for you, so thank you for the time. And all right, let's begin with Ezra Cleveland re-signing today, a 3-year deal. Some were curious as to the Jaguars re-signing of Cleveland. I'm on the side of it where I think it's a good thing. What say you?
Yeah, well, they traded for him, and they were not making it a secret that they wanted him back and thought he could be a guy that would be the long-term answer for them at left guard, which has sort of been a position of flux for them for a while. I heard some talk and some wonder about, why is this deal done and Josh Allen's deal isn't? And my simple answer to that is this was certainly a significantly less complicated deal to get done because you're not dealing with $30 million a year, which is probably where you're starting to talk with Josh Allen. But look, it sounds like based on what Doug Peterson said about Cam Robinson at the Combine, that they feel like now the left side of their offensive line is set with Cam at left tackle and Cleveland at left guard. Did not see a Brandon Sheriff release this week earlier when they released the 3 players. So that leads me to believe that he's probably going to be around for the next year. So this entire starting offensive line, what they felt was their best unit, even though they only played together 1 game, is coming back intact next year.
What would your thoughts be on that, which would obviously mean Luke Fortin or Mike back at center? That would not get a positive reaction in the fan base. I know that. What would your thoughts be if it is that same starting 5?
Well, I got no issues with Cam at left guard or left tackle. No issue. I mean, Cleveland's fine. Sheriff's level of play has not been what it was before he signed here with the Commanders. I get that. He's getting a little older. He's been banged up a lot. And Anton Harrison, I think we all can agree, is going to be a pretty darn good player for this franchise. The center is the biggest weakness. And Luke Fortner is a really nice guy, really good kid. I have nothing against him personally, but if he does not raise his level of play significantly, if he doesn't show up this year bigger, stronger, it's going to be a massive problem and it'll be a massive mistake. Now, I expect them to bring in some veteran competition for him, in free agency, not a starter. They're not gonna, I don't see them going out and adding a starter there. But someone that can come in and compete, maybe a guy that could play center and guard and push him a little bit. But they still believe that he can be a very, very good center in this league. And honestly, Hacker, I think it's going to be a massive mistake if they don't upgrade at that spot.
I agree.
Your quarterback got the crap beat out of him last year, and you can't have that again. And you have to be able to – I keep going back to the final game against Tennessee. And it's 3rd and goal from the 1, and they roll Trevor out to throw to Brenton Strange. And then on 4th and goal, Trevor tries to jump and extend and get the touchdown that way. But the bottom line was, if you look at that play, that was an outside run is what that was going to be. So they did not have enough faith in that offensive line to turn around and give it to Travis Etienne on the 1-yard line with their season on the line. So that, to me, if that's the same group that you're bringing back, man, I don't know how you can have any more confidence in that unit this year than you did at the end of the season last year until you see significant improvement from the interior of that line.
Yeah, the interesting thing was in training camp last year, they had those T-shirts, 31st in the NFL. That might have been generous. They were probably maybe the worst offensive line in the NFL last year. It would be interesting if they brought all 5 of those guys back. Mike DiRocco, ESPN.com. D-Rock, Daniel Thomas quickly also re-signed. Not that that's going to get a lot of headlines, but probably their best or their second-best special teams player, and I thought that was a good job to bring him back.
Yeah, you need guys like that. You need the core special teams guys, and you've got one with him and obviously with Andrew Wingard. And the thing of it is, people don't realize this, he's probably – well, not probably. He is consistently the fastest player on that team. He had 4 of the top fastest times, on a play last season. The 4 of the top 5. The only one who had a faster play was Calvin Ridley on 1 play. But Daniel Thomas can really, really run. You got to have those glue guys. And, yeah, I thought that was a smart signing to bring him back.
Now, the big news of the week was back on Tuesday, the franchise tag. They could not get a long-term deal done with Josh Allen. what does that mean for Calvin Ridley? Well, we'll get to the Ridley part of it in a moment, but for the Josh Allen part of it, Mike, you had to get him franchised or re-signed. You would have, I guess, preferred re-signing, but at the end of the day, Josh Allen will at least be in Jacksonville in 2024.
Yeah, and I don't think people should take the fact that he's franchised and just look at it as, well, okay, well there's no chance he's going to get a deal done, and the Jags are botching this. Yeah, they would have much preferred to have Josh signed to an extension and then be able to use that franchise tag on Ridley if they wanted to. But there's still obviously we got till July 15 for them to get a deal done. And I think that's going to happen eventually. But they had to protect themselves. And, my understanding was that there was they may have gotten off to a rough start in terms of, the lateness of the negotiations and what have you, and maybe some hard feelings there. But as things went on, it was very amicable. They just were unable to come to an agreement that they both kind of felt, good at. So, the Jags had to put the franchise tag on it, but I do expect them to get something done. If we get to the first part of July, and then you're looking at an Evan Ingram situation, and you feel like, oh no, just wait, got to get to July 14, and that'll be the point where I think the worry should really come in. But I think they'll get something done.
Trent Baalke released a statement with the franchise tag saying, and I'm paraphrasing here, but essentially we ran out of time. Well, that's kind of what happens, Trent, when you don't start negotiating until 4 weeks ago, right? I mean, when I read that, I'm thinking, you told us at a press conference a month after the season you hadn't even begun negotiations yet, and now you're saying one of the reasons you didn't get Allen signed long-term is you ran out of time. That, to me, probably didn't need to be said by Trent Baalke.
No, I probably wouldn't have said that if I were him. But, he also has told us he has a policy of he does not negotiate during the season, which that might be something he might need to reconsider as well. Because when we saw where this was going last year and we saw the kind of season Josh was having, it would have made sense to go ahead and open up negotiations then. And maybe they would have had something done and wouldn't have had to use the franchise tag. But here's the thing now that he's franchise tagged, he's going to see what the market what Danielle Hunter's going to get, in free agency. And that sort of may hurt the Jaguars too, because that could change their idea. I mean, Josh's camp's idea of what's fair compensation for him. So it's going to be interesting to watch in the next week or so. But, at this point, negotiations are not going to do anything now because you're trying to figure out what you're going to do in free agency. So pretty much, end of March is probably when I'd expect things at the earliest to kind of start back up again.
A couple of more from Mike DiRocco of ESPN.com. D-Rock, Josh Allen being franchised, what does that mean, in your opinion, for Calvin Ridley?
I think it makes it less likely that Calvin Ridley is back next year. Look, Calvin Ridley was on record at the end of the season. He wants to come back. He likes it here. He likes working with Trevor. He felt like they need more time. He said, I don't want to go learn another quarterback. I don't want to go learn another offense. But he said money would be a factor, as it should be. And, Mike Evans is off the table. T. Higgins is off the table. So Calvin Ridley now is the number one wide receiver on the market. And what does that mean? Is that a $20 million a year contract from somebody else? If that's the case, I certainly don't think the Jaguars would be comfortable going up to $20 million a year. I just think it's unlikely that he'll be back. There's still a chance, obviously, and there's always that possibility of a wink deal that you wait until free agency starts. But let's not forget the Monday and the Tuesday of next week. They can start negotiating with other teams. So you expect a few teams to come in with a pretty good offer for Calvin Ridley, and maybe when those numbers show up, that might change somebody's thinking a little bit, in that camp. But look, these guys trying to get paid. Totally understand it. And it'll be interesting to see if what kind of offer he gets elsewhere and how high the Jags are willing to go.
If Calvin Ridley does leave, and I agree with you, I said last week if Allen gets franchised, if Ridley hits the market, to me that's very similar to Jawan Taylor. I think he'll be gone like 4 hours into the legal tampering period. That's when Taylor agreed with Kansas City. If Ridley's gone, how much of a priority does that make wide receiver, either in free agency or in the draft?
Yeah, it moves it up a little bit because, like right now, if you said what are their three main needs, I would say corner, interior offensive line, and interior defensive line. They clearly don't see interior offensive line as much of a need there. But, if Ridley's gone, this is the last year of Zay Jones' contract. You don't have any young guys that you feel really good about that can kind of step in or be the next guy to take a jump and be one of the top 2 or 3 players at receiver on this team. So, it's a good draft for receivers. Maybe that's where they look in the second round. But this franchise has not had a lot of luck drafting receivers. And I know past failure or success is not any indication of future failure or success. But man, it just doesn't seem like this organization has done a good job in terms of landing wide receivers in the draft. I would put it, if Ridley does indeed leave, after corner, you might have to slide that in as the number 2 need, because I think it'd be easier to find somebody on a more reasonable deal to play on the interior offensive line than it will be to find like a number 2 or number 1 receiver, because who would be the next best guy out there? Gabe Davis? I mean, I don't know what that does for you. Isn't Gabe Davis Zay Jones? So I really don't know if that's an upgrade for them at all.
Yeah, I mean, Gabe Davis, I guess Darnell Mooney, Hollywood Brown, but that's almost a Christian Kirk situation. They're kind of the same guys. So I don't know what that would do for the Jaguars either. I think the draft would be the way to go. But again, trying to stay positive here, when Ridley wasn't here in 2022, Zay and Kirk and Ingram and Etienne did pretty well for themselves. It's just a matter of staying healthy. That was the problem last year. Mike Zay couldn't stay healthy hardly at all. Kirk got hurt in December, and then the team just blew up because of that.
Yeah, and look, the year before they were remarkably healthy, the team overall. And this past year, not so much. In 2022, they were healthy. 2023, not so much. That's kind of what happens. But that's the importance of having depth guys or young guys on the roster that are able to step in at a critical moment when you need them. And, they had Parker Washington on the roster last year. He clearly was not ready to step in and have a significant role. And, I get it. I mean, not everybody can do it. But, man, you had half the season to be ready and to get that kid ready just in case something were to happen. You drafted him to be Christian Kirk's eventual replacement, and he just was not ready and able to make any kind of major impact for them. And we all know the play against Cincinnati where, he didn't turn and all hell broke loose and Trevor got hurt. So, you can't count on staying healthy, but you don't want to sit there and expect to get hurt. But, that's a position where they don't have a lot of margin for error if Ridley doesn't come back.
Final moments with Mike DiRocco of ESPN.com. D-Rock, I want to end with free agency next week. Quickly, the guys that were released: Foley Fatukasi, Rayshon Jenkins, Darius Williams. Any of those guys catch you off guard?
Maybe the Foley Fatukasi, because there was a lot of dead money in that move. But I mean, he hadn't lived up to the contract, and he was so inconsistent. And I challenge anyone to remember a play that Foley Fatukasi made for this team. I think maybe in the season opener last year, he played really, really well against the Colts, but he never impacted the quarterback the way he did from the interior in New York. And you can't sit there and say what a great job they did in the run, because we saw how bad it was at the end of last season, and he was on the field with it. So, but just like the numbers in terms of when you have significantly more dead and you're only saving like $4 million or $3 million, that's always never good, because that means you made a mistake and you're releasing this guy because you are disappointed in what he's done and you're willing to take that dead hit, which now I guess when those three were released, before they were released, they had less than $1 million in dead money, and now they've got 17.5 for this year, which ranks 10th in the league. So, it's never good when you're in the top 10 in terms of dead money.
No, it's not. There's no doubt about that. And speaking of money, a lot is going to exchange next week. Mike, legal tampering on Monday and Tuesday. You can agree to terms on Monday and Tuesday. You can officially sign on Wednesday. Look, 2 years ago, there was a free-for-all for the Jaguars. They signed everybody. Last year, there was literally nothing that transpired. Is it going to be somewhere in the middle this year? Maybe not a free-for-all, but I think the Jaguars they'll be somewhat active, right? Monday and Tuesday next week?
Yeah, I think instead of adding 3 or 4 key pieces like they did in 2022, I think this might be a year where they focus their attention on getting one key piece, and then the rest of it will be, kind of filling in here and there. I expect them to look at some of those interior defensive linemen, and I mentioned before, a veteran offensive lineman who can play center to push Luke Fortner, probably a low-tier corner, because they've obviously had some issues with releasing Darius Williams, and we know that that's probably going to be their top priority in the draft, but still, do you have a lot of confidence in a lot of those other guys behind Tyson Campbell? And I guess the answer to that is no. So that might be an area that they'll go and try and find a depth piece as well. So, yeah, not like 2022, probably more like last year.
And then final question, Mike. Ezra Cleveland's back. We got to wait on Ridley and see what happens there. Other in-house guys, whether it's Smoot, Agnew, Shatley, I guess Chason, Trey Herndon, any of those other guys, do you think the Jaguars want to bring back, or is there going to be a lot of change there?
Yeah, the only one that intrigues me a little bit is Jamal Agnew, because I don't know, what they're going to do with the kick rules, the kickoff return rules. I mean, they're tweaking some of that, and he does obviously give you a lot of value there, but you also drafted Parker Washington to be his eventual replacement as a returner. So I don't think we'll see any of those guys you mentioned back.
And Brandon McManus, you mentioned the kicking game. He's also a free agent, which will be an interesting one to watch as well. D-Rock, what's coming up on ESPN.com as we head into free agency next week?
Yeah, I got the Jaguars free agent primer, I think is running Friday or Saturday. And then, then it's just work the phones and see what we can come up with on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to report. So next week's always one of the more fun and more hectic weeks in our business, as you know, Hack. So it's going to be a lot of work, but it's probably one of the most fun weeks that we have too.
There's no doubt. It's going to be a very interesting week here in Jacksonville. Mike DiRocco, D-Rock of ESPN.com. Mike, I know you're busy, brother. Thank you for the time. We'll do it again soon.
Thanks, Hack. I appreciate you.
There you go, Mike DiRocco, ESPN.com. Always kind enough to join us here on Hacker After Dark. Big Jaguar news of the day. Ezra Cleveland re-signed. Daniel Thomas re-signed. It appears tonight the Jaguars have restructured the contract of right guard Brandon Sheriff, so it appears a majority of that offensive line will return in 2024. More on the Jaguars coming up in about a half an hour. John Shipley of Jaguar Report will join us. Amidst all this NFL Jaguar talk, they're underway with spring football in Gainesville. Billy Napier and the Gators had their first practice of spring ball today. David Waters, host of the Gators Breakdown podcast, will do a little spring football preview, Florida Gator style, coming up in just a moment. I also will tell you, 9:42 to go, ASUN semifinal, JU up 6 over Stetson, 65-59. A win for the Dolphins means they're playing for a right to go to the NCAA tournament this weekend. We will keep you updated. Let's talk Florida. Let's talk spring ball. Let's talk with David Waters of the Gators Breakdown podcast. Next on a Thursday night in Jacksonville, it's Hacker After Dark.
The world will be watching Ponte Vedra.
And the Scheffler victory train just keeps on rolling.
Catch live Southeast Orthopedic Specialist leaderboard updates from the players. Brought to you by
Performance Painting, Kanaya Water, Jacksonville, and First Coast Honda dealers.
On 1010XL.
Baloo here for Spunez Vision. Why Spunez Vision? Well, I've been with Dr. Neil Spunez now since I got back to Jacksonville in 2006. 37 years of experience he has. Spunez Vision is a family organization that focuses on personal high-quality medical and surgical eye care. Dr. Catherine Spunez is fellowship-trained in cornea and cataract surgery and all refractive surgery. Combined, that's 30 years plus in laser eye surgery. Visit SpunezVision.com today. Here you can see.
Doc Rooter is a full-service plumbing company that's locally owned and operated, fully licensed and insured. We'll be at your home in a timely manner, provide honest pricing, and ensure the job is completed correctly, or we'll make it right. Doc Rooter can handle all plumbing jobs, including repairing broken pipes, clearing clogged drains, to installing new fixtures, water heaters, garbage disposals, and full repipes for older homes. If you're stuck, call the Doc, 904-862-6769. That's 904-862-6769.
I'm here with Danny Van Sickle, Director of the Electrical Training Alliance. Danny, tell me about your program.
Hey, Rick, we're a 5-year electrical apprenticeship. Our students start out making over $40,000 a year, and right now graduate making over $90,000 a year, including benefits. There is no tuition or no student debt. You just have to apply and get accepted.
Did you say no tuition and no student debt?
You heard that right, Rick. Once you're accepted to the program, your only costs are the books and the course fees, about $800 a year.
That sounds like an amazing opportunity. How can I learn more?
Just go to etajax.org, and you can apply there.
Apply by May 23rd.
Get ready for the Players' Championship, March 12th through 17th at TPC Sawgrass. Don't miss your chance to watch the PGA Tour's best compete to etch their name in history while enjoying a vibrant social scene. From local bites to the latest merchandise available in the PGA Tour fan shop, the Players offers the ultimate experience for everyone to enjoy. Secure your spot today. Tickets are on sale now at theplayers.com.
The All-Pro Roofing phone line connects you to some of the most sports-connected minds in the country.
You mean you can actually contact these people?
Listen for great phone interviews all day on the All-Pro Roofing phone line.
We'll talk on the phone.
On 1010XL.
Hey there, Mia here for Window Gang. You know, Window Gang is more than America's leader in window cleaning. They offer gutter and dryer vent cleaning, pressure washing, and more to give your home a beautifully polished look for the new year. They're total pros, always on time, great prices, and satisfaction guaranteed. Call their super friendly staff at 262-7300 to schedule your free estimate. Call now for their New Year's specials, 262-7300.
Tim McGraw. In concert. The Standing Room Only Tour 2024. A night filled with your favorite songs. 5-Star Veterans Memorial, March 14th. With special guest Carly Pierce. Get tickets now at Ticketmaster.com. Don't miss Tim McGraw, live in Jacksonville.
Get ready, get set, and go to the Ready, Set, Go sales event going on now at Arlington Toyota. Arlington Toyota is loaded with fresh, new Toyota inventory. And during the Ready, Set, Go event, it's all marked down and ready to go home with you today. Plus, get credit help with Arlington's pre-approval program, and every new Toyota comes with Arlington's lifetime warranty. It's the Ready, Set, Go sales event in person, 10939 Atlantic Boulevard, and online at arlingtontoyota.com.
Picking here, you know at Zero Res they love rugs. Fine oil rugs need to be cleaned with the right equipment and careful training. My guy at Zero Res, Gerard, is a certified master rug cleaner and has been cleaning rugs for more than 5 years. Don't trust your fine rugs to anyone. Call Zero Res right now. They are offering a BOGO on rug cleaning. Have Zero Res clean one rug, get a second rug for free. What a great time to get your rugs cleaned. Zero Res, man. Spell it forward, spell it backwards. Zero Res. It's the right way to clean.
Zero Res.
Frank Franzi here for Stanley Pools. There's a reason so many of my friends and our listeners have had Stanley Pools build their pools and now maintain their pools, because Stanley Pools truly cares about their customers. Stanley Pools is locally owned and has been serving our community for 35 years. For all of your pool needs, call Stanley Pools at 269-7277. That's Stanley Pools, a family tradition of fine swimming pools. 269-7277, or find them online at stanleypoolsfl.com.
Committed to the mission.
At Navy Mutual, we're committed to providing high-quality life insurance to members of the military and their families. Because at Navy Mutual, our highest commitment is to you. Visit NavyMutual.org.
For Canine Veterans Day, Navy Mutual would like to salute all active and retired canines that have served our country. Canine Veterans Day has been officially designated as a day to honor these unique members of our military. America salutes you.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Let's ring up another guest on the All-Pro Roofing phone line.
Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. The NFL free agent market going on next week. Obviously, there is a ton to get into around the National Football League, but you look on the calendar and spring football. That's right. Billy Napier and the Florida Gators have begun festivities down in Gainesville, year 3, spring-wise, for Coach Napier in Gainesville. The roster looks different. The coaching staff looks different. Will the results on the field look different? For that, let's welcome in David Waters, he of the Gators Breakdown podcast. He's always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. David, how you doing?
Pretty good, Hacker. And, yeah, like you said, just looking forward to seeing what Gators can put together on the field this spring in this critical year 3 for Billy Napier.
Roster's different. Obviously, the transfer portal giveth, it also taketh away. As a whole, David, how would you assess what the Gators lost and gained in the portal this offseason?
Yeah, I think the positions of need, I think where we really start. Offensive line, Micah Mazuka on his way out. Richie Leonard transfers to rival Florida State. But Florida really needed help at the tackle spot, and they went and really got it with Brendan Crenshaw-Dixon there from San Diego State and Devin Manuel from Arkansas. And I think it gives Florida probably some more true tackles at the spot. You had Damian George playing at a tackle spot last year there at right tackle. He's going to slide into right guard and probably be a better fit for him. So Florida should have a better fit. We'll see what Austin Barber, if he's available, if he's limited coming into this spring. You're off that last late season injury last year where he missed the last couple of games. So if he's available, I think it gives Florida 3 pretty good tackles to go into spring practice with. Even if he's limited or somewhat out, could be silver lining, so you get these new guys reps at the tackle spot. So I do think they got better at tackle, and that leaves them a little bit deeper, I think, along the offensive guard or offensive line. Roger Kearney, from Orange Park, I think is going to be one of the main key backups at center and one of the guard spots as well. I think he'll get plenty of reps this year. So it's a group that's got to take a big step and hit the transfer portal for tackles, what they did there. And another position I like is safety. They went and hit that really hard there to create a lot of competition in that room. Asa Turner from Washington, DJ Douglas from Tulane, Triquez Bridges from Oregon. All those guys bring a ton of snaps to go along with Jordan Castell, who got a lot of snaps as a true freshman last year. Bryce Thornton as well. So that's a position group I think should take a major leap only because of the competition that they're really creating in that room. So those are the 2 spots I really like what Florida did. In the safety spot, you lose Kamari Wilson, of course, last year at the safety spot. Miguel Mitchell as well, who played a lot of snaps. R.J. Moten's going to move to linebacker there for Florida. So some shuffling to go along with the 2 positions they've hit hardest in the transfer portal.
David Waters of the Gators Breakdown podcast. David, we'll get to Billy Napier in a moment, but the staff that he brought in, obviously a lot of changes from what it was 3.5 months ago or so. How would you assess the staff changes heading into the spring?
Yeah, that one I wrestled back and forth with. I do think it was a huge upgrade bringing Ron Roberts in and kind of helping lead the charge with Austin Armstrong on the defensive side. You bring in Chapman there along the defensive line as well to go along with Will Harris on the back end to take over for the departed Sean Spencer up front on the defensive line and Corey Raymond in the defensive backfield as he goes back to LSU. A lot of new faces for a side of the ball that needs a whole lot of improvement. Ron Roberts came into Auburn last year, turned that defense around in 1 year. They played, notwithstanding the last play against Alabama, of course, but held Alabama's offense to some lows that we didn't see from Alabama's offense, and also Georgia had a weird time against that Auburn defense as well last year. So you're hoping that he comes in and kind of sprinkles that dust on Florida this year, as well as some improvement under Ron Roberts in year one. So I think on that side of the ball, they can bank on some experience from the players and to bank on the experience of Austin Armstrong as well. They're 2 years together from personnel and staff, but Ron Roberts, I think, is huge on that side of the ball. Just kind of settle it down a bit, where I think Florida just has to have that jump. And then, of course, some changes along the offensive line as well, with Darnell Stapleton on the way out, and DeCoster from Cleveland Browns comes in. A little bit of NFL experience, not a whole lot of experience. Billy Napier going to keep with that 2 offensive line coach system. Him and Louisiana are the only 2 staffs in America, I believe, that have the 2 offensive line coach system. Hasn't necessarily paid off for Florida yet, but I think in year 3, that development, that path of building a staff, I think really, really has to pay off for Billy Napier.
David, one of the more interesting storylines coming in is the dynamic between Graham Mertz and DJ Lagway. Graham Mertz, who was very good last year, quite frankly, at least statistically, when you look at his numbers prior to the injury, and then, of course, DJ Lagway, the most highly acclaimed Florida quarterback that has come in over a decade. What's your thought on how that dynamic's going to work itself out during spring drills?
I expect for Graham Mertz, I think my biggest question for him is, what's the ceiling? How much more is there? Can he, now going into a spring where he's not swimming as much, not learning as much, can he apply everything that he learned last season to basically hit the ground running this spring as Florida tries to figure out the receiver position a bit? I think his ceiling will be dependent on an offensive line and the wide receivers around him. But there's some things that he's got to get better at, and he'll admit it too. Get the ball down the field, not taking sacks when he doesn't really need to. I think those things come together. That's where he can tap into that ceiling a bit more. And then, of course, with DJ Lagway, for lack of a better comparison, I mean, maybe we do look at Chris Tim Tebow from 2006, and you bring him in short yardage situations. You bring him in maybe red zone, and see how much he can handle. I think if he proves he can handle that, and throughout the spring maybe proves he can handle more, because I mean, look, after he committed to Florida, there was a lot of communication with the Florida staff on how to prepare for a game, and he applied that to his senior year of high school play. Started practicing with the same football as Florida football uses. So he was trying to get ingrained in the process of Billy Napier, and a lot of that was film study and how to study defenses and how to map out plays. And DJ, he's been doing those things. So I think you wouldn't be surprised if maybe he's a little more prepared than some true freshman quarterbacks. And if he proves that he can handle that, maybe you give him a drive in the first half and a drive in the second half. But it's all going to be dependent on, of course, how fast he grasps this thing. But I think at the very least, you get him in for those short yardage plays. You get him in for some safe plays where maybe there's some one-on-one coverage on the outside, and he can make this easy decision and hit some passes down the field.
A couple of more for David Waters. He is the host of the Gators Breakdown podcast. David, offensively, they got to replace Trevor Etienne, who will now be running the ball between the hedges in Athens, which still irks a lot of Gator fans. They got to replace Ricky Pearsall, who is going to be a pretty high draft pick in the NFL draft. Those are the big two. Your thoughts on the offensive skill positions that'll be surrounding Mertz and or Lagway?
That's one of the big questions I have. Where's the explosion come from? Besides Trey Wilson and what he was able to perform at the true freshman last year at the receiver spot, I can't pinpoint to an exact player of, who's going to replace, especially in the backfield, who's going to replace the explosion of Etienne? Who's going to make the big plays at the receiver spot? Because for Trey Wilson, and as good as I think he can be, he's going to need some help. He was able to take advantage of another receiver that's as good as Ricky Pearsall to help where defenses can't necessarily focus on him. Well, he's the focal point of the offense now, especially as far as the skill players go. So defenses are going to double him. They're going to bracket him. They're going to make defensive game plans to stop Trey Wilson. So Florida needs some other receivers to step up. Is that just to bring it local a bit? Marcus Burke from Trinity Christian. I mean, this has got to be a do or die spring for him. This has got to be the time where he separates himself, where he can get some more playing time. Hopefully, he stays healthy and proves that this spring he can be that. And Florida hit the transfer portal and got Chimere Dike, who was a wide receiver at Wisconsin, played with Graham Mertz a couple of years ago in his best season as a college football player. So there's some familiarity there. But Florida's got to find some explosion in the backfield at the wide receiver spot. Cam Carroll in the backfield, transferred from Tulane last year, messed his knee up. We'll see how healthy he is. But Florida may be relying on Jaden Ball, a true freshman, Kanan Daniels, to be that third back behind Montrell Johnson and Trayon Webb. But those running backs are very similar. I don't know if they have that explosion Trevor Etienne showed out of the backfield.
Yeah, that's certainly one of the big questions going in, no doubt. David, final football question. We'll hopefully have you on towards the spring game to kind of recap. But as we sit right now heading into spring ball, Billy Napier, there's no doubt the pressure's on, but it's almost like the perfect storm, right? We were talking about this earlier this week. I don't know if Vince Lombardi or Bill Belichick could navigate this schedule that Florida has with the talent that's on their rosters. So Florida may show some improvement. In fact, I have no doubt they probably will show some improvement. I also have many doubts as to whether that'll be reflected in the win-loss column.
Yeah, Hacker, I mean, in year three, the problem is, Billy Napier hasn't built any equity. So you would be able to forgive if, the record's not where maybe it should be in year three. But it's a critical year. After the first couple of seasons, and this is a roster that's built in your image. This is the way you chose to build a roster, and a lot of that through high school recruiting. But then you lose one of your best players like Trevor Etienne, so you kind of start. I won't necessarily say start over, but a path that you thought you'd have in year three, but it's not there now. So it's this is a roster still mostly built in your image through high school recruiting the last couple of years, through the transfer portal. This is not a lot of Dan Mullen players left. So no matter really how hard the schedule is, this is your squad, and this is what you built for. And Hacker, I go into spring and I go into the 2024 season saying, hey, look, if this thing is headed in the right direction, no matter how hard the schedule is, we should be able to see it. I think a lot of us out there who watch are smart enough fans to know what better football will look like from Florida. I think that should translate to 7 or 8 wins. I think you do kind of have to exceed expectations this year for a for sure return the next season. Look, there's a lot of money tied up into Billy Napier. Does he kind of maybe hang on because of that? But in the end, if we're just talking results on the field, I just think if it's headed in the right direction, no matter how hard the schedule is, Hacker, we'll be able to tell.
Final moments, David Waters, the host of the Gators Breakdown Podcast. Spring football is getting underway. David, basketball season wrapping up, but Florida is absolutely going dancing. After that win over Alabama, they 21 wins now on the year. It doesn't even matter to me what happens in the SEC tournament. They are an absolute lock. There will be no finger biting on Selection Sunday. So a tip of the cap to Todd Golden. A lot of questions about him last year. A lot of questions, quite frankly, as recently as, say, 6 to 8 weeks ago. Yet they turned a corner about midway through the year, and they're going to be back in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, it's been a fun team to watch and a fun team to watch grow. They went through the non-conference, and you still didn't know really how to feel about. The SEC play wasn't a great start either, but then, as you said, Hacker, just kind of have turned it on. So deep at guard, and this time of year, that's really what you love to see for a team heading into March with Richard Clayton Jr. and Pullen. Really nice game for all those guys against Alabama. Of course, Samuel, the transfer, the big man there, he's come on lately. So I think the most fun part and the exciting thing about this team is you don't know who's going to be that guy from night to night. There will be a guy. You just don't know who it's going to be. And I think that can really benefit Florida. If they get into a funk in the SEC tournament or NCAA tournament, there's a lot of guys to turn to. I think to help break this team out of a funk. They play good defense. They got nice guard play. They got nice size as well. So they're a pretty balanced team heading into March, and just maybe hitting their stride at the right moment.
Strickland's getting grief over the Billy Napier hire. I'm sure you and I talked to a lot of the same people. We know that. Does he get credit now for Todd Golden, do you think, or is it too early?
No, I think you give some credit. I mean, I think this team exceeded expectations a bit coming into this year and making the tournament. Of course, I think we all still know, at least for me, it will come down to football. I don't think you get a chance to hire a third football coach, but he builds a little bit of equity here for Todd Golden and the way the basketball program has been built through the transfer portal. Got some nice young guys too as well in traditional recruiting. So I think you feel a little bit better about what Scott Strickland saw in Todd Golden, and not such a big name to take over. And look, another thing is basically moving on from Mike White. Of course, there was a lot of consternation there if Florida was making the right move. Of course, it looked like he left on his own terms, but neither party seemed to be happy at the moment. And there was a lot of back and forth. Is Florida making the right move, or Florida doesn't know what they're doing? Why are they getting rid of Mike White? And so far, it has certainly been the right move.
David, tell us about the Gators Breakdown podcast. Where can people find it?
YouTube, your favorite podcast platform out there as well. A lot of spring practice coverage, big spring previews up there right now. Some quarterback talk as well up there. And, of course, Billy Napier will be on the practice field Thursday, and we'll have reaction from what he has to say for the first time this spring.
Well, man, David Waters, the host of the Gators Breakdown podcast. David, I know you're busy, man. Thank you, as always, for the time. We'll do it again soon.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Because the expressway doesn't mean the fast way.
Fasten your seatbelt.
The Frangie Show.
Don't look like no expressway to me.
Afternoons on 1010XL.
Hacker here, and I have a huge announcement. I've started Awaken 180 weight loss. That's right, yours truly is finally making the 180 I've needed to do for many years now. The combination of turning 40 and wanting to keep up with my 4-year-old son was a ton of motivation. What's more motivating? In just 1 week, I dropped 19 pounds. You heard me right, 19 pounds in just 1 week. Now, I do have to say, these results aren't the norm, but when you have the amount of weight I needed to drop, the results came quick. In just 1 week, I have more energy and I feel great. Mike and Matt were right. Awaken 180 is simple. I'm eating to lose weight and having fun in the process. Whether you've tried to lose weight 20 times or if this is your first time, with Awaken 180, it will be the last time. Fast. I mean fast results, and then you receive free support for life. Make the call. 844-346-1800. That's 844-346-1800 or online at awaken180weightloss.com.
Electricians, innovators, and tech enthusiasts, listen up. Miller Electric is shaping the future, and we want you to be a part of it. From healthcare and data centers, corporate offices, aviation, and industrial facilities, Miller Electric is powering the most exciting projects in Jacksonville and beyond. We offer not just a job, but a thrilling career with great pay and incredible benefits. Visit us at millercareers.com to apply. Miller Electric, where your skills meet our vision, and equal opportunity employer.
Bueller Air Conditioning presents
Are You Cool? Today's lucky contestant, a cheese negotiator from Jacksonville, Florida. Meet Margaret Drent.
How do you like my costume, Bob? I'm Gruyere.
Well, you smell great, Margaret. But here's your question. What's wrong with your air conditioner when you hear this sound?
Oh, that's a toughie. Are you sure you don't want me to tell you the suggested retail price of a box of Rice-A-Roni?
5 seconds, Margaret.
Is it a compressor motor starter failure?
That's right, Margaret. And if you call the coolness experts at Bueller Air Conditioning, we can fix that faulty AC to make sure that you are cool.
It's surprisingly stuffy inside a giant cheese.
You signed the waiver, Margaret.
Stay cooler with Bueller.
Visit BuellerAir.com.
Prosser here. When it comes to the business of selling your home, there's one promise I can give you that will deliver, and that promise is ChadandSandy.com. That's Chad, A-N-D, Sandy.com. How do I know this promise is guaranteed? Because they say so and then they deliver. You see, Chad and Sandy guarantee your home sold at an agreed-upon price and deadline, or they will buy it. So whatever problems you think you're having selling your home, there is your simple solution. They're going to buy it if it's not sold for exactly what you want. Mortgage rates have lowered going into the spring selling season. Now is the time to maximize your equity, and you can do it with the real estate team of Chad and Sandy. They have a plan and the experience to sell your home fast for maximum cash this spring. John and Ursula in Green Meadows wrote in, we weren't in great health, decided to downsize to an easier place to manage. After 185 days, our home failed to sell. We went to Chad and Sandy, sold in 12 days. You can too at ChadandSandy.com.
Home of the Jaguars. WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
Instant Keys. You don't have to go to the dealer. Instant Keys comes to you
Instant Keys saves the day if you've lost or broken keys. They can program new keys and remotes for nearly every make and model of vehicle at a fraction of the dealership cost. Fast, honest, and reliable locksmith service. Call Instant Keys, 722-1111.
You know what happens when a smart group of medical professionals get together and commit to a technology designed to relieve your aching joints without surgery? It's called QC Kinetics.
And this guy knows the power of a solid team. Emmitt Smith, football legend and Dancing with the Stars champ.
This elite medical group, some of them orthopedic doctors, got together and said, why are we prescribing so many medications? Why are we sending so many people to surgery in droves? Let's change this.
The answer? Natural biologics, our own healing properties. And the outcome is the country's largest provider of non-surgical regenerative treatments, QC Kinetics.
Actually, the real outcome are the tens of thousands of patients who finally got their quality of life back without surgery. Thanks to QC Kinetics.
Call QC Kinetics, 904-274-5522. That's 904-274-5522. 904-274-5522.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Let's ring up another guest on the All-Pro Roofing phone line.
Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. Boy, the NFL offseason is rolling right along. Josh Allen has been franchised. What does that mean for Calvin Ridley? Well, we're going to find out pretty quick as NFL free agency begins the legal tampering period next Monday. It is right around the corner. A lot of Jaguar moves were made this week. Let's talk about all of it with my buddy John Shipley of Jaguar Report. He does a terrific job covering the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he's always kind enough to join us here on Hacker After Dark. John, how we doing?
Doing great, my friend.
John, always appreciate the time. Know it's a busy time for all of us, and what a week here in Jacksonville. Let's begin with the biggest story. Josh Allen, long-term deal not reached. Ultimately, the franchise tag is what happens. Your thoughts on Allen getting the franchise tag?
Yeah, it was always the expected outcome. I don't think that many people were, actually surprised. I mean, he was one of the most talked about tag candidates in all of the NFL, for an obvious reason. I mean, I will say, from conversations I've had, the Jaguars did make some progress in, the couple of weeks that they were talking to Allen's camp, but that kind of shows you their mistake, in of itself. Maybe if you had started this process sooner, maybe if you had started during the season or even dating back to last offseason, maybe a deal gets done before the deadline. And it's not like they weren't trying. I mean, look at Trent Baalke's statement yesterday. He more or less said in his statement, we tried, ran out of time, but you can't make the run out of time excuse because you had plenty of time. It's not like you had the couple of weeks that they worked under. It's just kind of, in my opinion, goes to show the big downside and the big flaw to his philosophy of not signing guys or not negotiating during the season.
I completely agree. I thought that statement was ridiculous, at least that part of it. You ran out of time, Trent, because you didn't start but 4 weeks ago, if that. I mean, he held that press conference and said negotiations hadn't even begun yet. Again, it's ridiculous to say you ran out of time. That was your doing. Having said that, John, now that Allen is tagged, does that get hairy for the Jaguars at all? Are there any issues there, or do you think they will find common ground on a long-term deal later this offseason?
They're honestly closer than I thought they would have been at this point. I really thought that maybe Baalke's opinion of Allen, as a player isn't as high as, the fan base is or what Allen's production has said. It really felt like, toward the end of the season that the Jaguars were more or less thinking, okay, you proved it once, can you do it again? But from the conversations, like I said, I've had the last, week or so, last few days, they're closer now than I imagined they would have been, which if you had asked me the day after the season ended, I would have said Allen's probably playing on the tag. I don't imagine Baalke values him enough to actually meet him in some common ground and get him, the money that he's obviously earned and the money he's seeking. I think there's a better chance of that now. I think that there's a good chance this could be an Evan Ingram situation like last year where, he signs before training camp and ultimately lowers his cap hit. But the issue with that is, Evan Ingram's cap hit last year went down, I think, $7 million after he signed his extension from the franchise tag. But that happened in the middle of July. Like that money isn't doing them a whole lot of good then. Obviously, there's still some players out there, but it's not as valuable as saving the money, at the start of free agency, which the Jaguars really, could have used that boost from lowering Allen's cap hit, which obviously now they won't get.
John Shipley of Jaguar Report. All right, we've thought all along the domino effect. Whatever happened with Allen would affect Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley now set to hit the free agent market next Monday. John, I've said for a while now, if Allen got franchised, I think Ridley's probably gone. What's your opinion on that?
It really seems like, as the days go on, that's becoming more and more likely that Ridley hits free agency because, he's going to be the number one receiver on it. Even if Michael Pittman wasn't franchise tagged, Calvin Ridley would have been the number one available wide receiver. That's what happens when guys like T. Higgins gets taken off the market. I think Higgins is still semi-available, but it has to be a trade scenario, and it's hard to see many teams giving up trade capital and then paying him. It just seems more likely he'll be a free agent next year. And then Mike Evans re-signing in Tampa Bay made Calvin Ridley, easily the number one option in free agency. Teams aren't going to value Marquise Brown more than they're going to value Calvin Ridley. So I could definitely see Ridley getting offers on March 11th in that 23, 24, even 25 million per year range because, that's with the cap going up, that's the going rate for a number one receiver. And it seems like a lot of teams think that Ridley is that. And I think Ridley still has, that ability. I don't think he's Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase, but ultimately there aren't a lot of that guys anyways. I think Ridley's in those next few tiers below, and I think what he brings next year to any team will be better than his production and play this year, just considering his time back in it. So I do think the chances of them retaining Ridley have decreased. I don't think their interest in doing so has decreased, and I don't think Ridley's interest in coming back to Jacksonville has decreased either. But at the end of the day, while I think Ridley would prefer to be in Jacksonville, the money still has to be, somewhat equal. And there's a good chance, as the days go on, that it won't be. I had a scout tell me last week, on the phone that he thought that teams could try to drive up the price of Ridley in free agency, even somewhat tying it to teams still being upset about the Jaguars, exploding the receiver market with Christian Kirk a few years ago. And I know some fans think that's petty, but look at some of the reports in the last week. Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, Cameron Wolf of NFL Network, coming out with these reports that Ridley will get big money. Don't you think that's somewhat spurred by, teams kind of feeding that to them?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I didn't even think about the Christian Kirk thing, but that's interesting as well. We'll come back to Ridley in a moment, John, when we talk about free agency. Quickly, the last 2 days, the Jaguars have said goodbye to 3 defensive starters. Foley Fatukasi. That's a miss, right, for Trent Baalke in regards to Fatukasi. He probably wasn't the guy the Jaguars expected when they were signing him.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. A lot of people looked at the dead money with Foley and the minimal cap savings, and they're wondering why the Jaguars did that. It went beyond the cap savings. He simply wasn't the player that they were hoping, they were getting in free agency. They didn't get the production, the impact out of him on the field over 2 seasons. So that's a definite miss. And it seemed like they projected him to be more than he was, which is, really the downside to free agency a lot of times. He's still a solid role player. He's a good run defender, but he's not an every down impact kind of guy, and they paid him to be that kind of guy. So they made the cardinal mistake in free agency, which is paying a role player or a solid rotational guy to be a better player than he is.
We get to Rayshawn Jenkins next. No surprise there, although Jenkins is a guy that certainly had his moments. I said last night he's responsible for 2 of the best defensive plays maybe in the history of the franchise, right? The pick 6 against Dallas in overtime to win that, and then the strip sack of Josh Dobbs in the AFC South Championship game back in 2022. But it certainly appeared towards the end of last season that Rayshawn Jenkins was not playing his best football. So I'm not really surprised that Jenkins was shown the door.
Yeah, they got 3 years of production out of him on a 4-year deal. Obviously, restructuring him last year led to some of the big dead cap that they have with him now. But I think ultimately, it was probably a solid signing. Like you said, he made some huge plays and huge games for them. And I think, maybe it would have been different. Maybe he would return to Jacksonville this year if you didn't see Antonio Johnson come on late last year. All expectations are that Antonio Johnson will be a starting safety for them next year. I know he played nickel a lot last year, but I think a lot of fans misinterpreted that. He was rotating with Trey Herndon at nickel. Like, when it was obvious passing downs, Trey Herndon was coming onto the field and Antonio Johnson was coming off. I've never seen that with a nickel cornerback before. And it just kind of showed you that, they kind of knew that he wasn't a guy that you could have in there, guarding slot receivers, especially, man-to-man very often. But I do think putting him at a strong safety role, bringing him closer to the line of scrimmage will be good for him. And I'd expect him to be starting there next year. And that's what's supposed to happen. You're supposed to draft cheap replacements for, expensive veterans. That's what, day three successful picks are supposed to look like.
John Shipley of Jaguar Report. That gets us to Darius Williams. I know you were not very surprised by this. It caught some people off guard. But at the end of the day, I get it, right? He's going to be 31 at the end of this month. I think clearly his best football in his career is probably in the rearview mirror. He had some moments last year, right? The pick six in London against Atlanta. But from all indications, he also wasn't a great fit for Ryan Nielsen's defense.
Yeah, no, I think that's the biggest thing. That Darius Williams had a great season last year. That's because he was a great fit in Mike Caldwell's defense. A lot of off coverage, being able to read the quarterback. That's what Darius Williams does really, really well. And Ryan Nielsen's defense is more or less the complete opposite. Trent Baalke, Ryan Nielsen, they can argue the semantics of man versus zone all they want, but the real difference is press coverage versus off coverage. You can still play press coverage in zone defense, but they want their corners to be close to the line of scrimmage. They want them to get physical. And Darius Williams, he's one of the smaller outside cornerbacks in the NFL. That's just not his game. His game was obviously as an off coverage guy. So he was never a fit in Ryan Nielsen's defense. And I also think, maybe there's some credence to the idea of the Jaguars potentially getting ahead of potential regression. That's what you see smart teams do. And Darius Williams, really good player, but he's getting to that age that you start to see cornerbacks lately fall off. I mean, you saw James Bradbury do it last year. James Bradbury went from being a top 10 cornerback in football to being a complete liability. So when guys fall off, they fall off hard, and the Jaguars, it looked like, wanted to potentially get ahead of that curve.
John Shipley, Jaguar Report, here with us on 1010XL in Jacksonville. All right, John, for in-house free agents not named Calvin Ridley, we had some clarity earlier today on a couple of these guys. Daniel Thomas re-signed, Ezra Cleveland re-signed. Let's begin there. Your thoughts on both guys returning to Jacksonville?
Yeah, I don't think Ezra Cleveland returning is that big of a surprise. It always seemed like that after the Jaguars obviously traded a 6th-round pick for him. They would obviously want to get more than the 5 starts that they got out of that investment. The numbers, might seem a little high, for what he produced last year and in the past, but you also have to factor in the cap going up and the fact that there are a lot of guards that are about to get paid, next week or so. Some guys who will hit 14, 15, 16 even million per year. So once the dust settles, it'll probably look like a cheaper deal all in all, but it does kind of, signify to me that at the very least they have, 60% of their starting offensive line, set for week one between whether you wanted to be Cam Robinson or Walker Little at left tackle, whoever, Ezra Cleveland at left guard, and then obviously Anton Harrison at right tackle. That means center and right guard are really the next 2 spots to watch. And then Daniel Thomas, I thought it was, a smart move. I honestly thought, after Josh Allen, Calvin Ridley, Ezra Cleveland, Daniel Thomas is probably the most valuable in-house guy. What he provides, he's obviously good safety depth. He's never really looked out of place when forced to play, and considering they just released Rayshon Jenkins, it's not bad to have some veteran depth at that position on the depth chart. And then also the fact he's a special teams ace. He made the big play last year against Baltimore that got, a lot of justified attention, but he's been making plays like that, really his whole career in Jacksonville. He's a really good punt gunner. He was among the league's top special teams tacklers when he got hurt with a broken forearm last year, was leading the Jaguars. So I thought it was a smart move to go ahead and bring him back.
I'll be honest, John, when I saw the money for Cleveland earlier, I thought that might be a decent financial deal for the Jaguars. I was talking to guys at PFF and at Spot Track that thought Cleveland was going to get a little more than $9+ million per year. So I think all in all, now granted he has to do well on the field. That's the big part of it. But from the on-paper standpoint, I don't really have any issue with what the Jaguars gave Ezra Cleveland.
It's definitely what a lot of, sites were kind of projecting for him. I would have been interested to see, if they let him test free agency, what kind of offers he would have, heard then. Because that's the big thing. You're extending him without letting him hit free agency, which obviously makes him, a priority resigning. I would have been interested to see, had he been able to talk to teams on March 11th, what that money would have looked like. But it's probably, like I said, the cap going up, guard market set to explode. That's probably about what's expected for Cleveland. You have to ask yourself at the end of the day if you feel like you're the team that should be paying Cleveland that or not.
Final moments, John Shipley of Jaguar Report. All right, John, you mentioned March 11th. We are on the doorstep of free agency. Following you on social media, I've heard a couple of names that you've thrown out there, a couple of veterans, Sheldon Rankins on the D-line. I believe Jeff Okudah is a guy you're on as well at defensive back. Do you still like those two fits here in Jacksonville?
Yeah, I think both make a lot of sense. And both, Jaguars have operated in free agency in the past like a team that, wants to eliminate looming holes so that they can truly go best player available, specifically in the first round. And if you do that at cornerback, you do that at defensive tackle, obviously bringing Cleveland back, maybe you add a guy at center, then you're pretty set up in terms of the glaring holes, at least on surface level. And that would give you some flexibility moving into the first round of the draft to where you could, really take, the best guy on your board.
John, final question. Then I want you to talk about Jaguar Report and the coverage you guys have coming out for free agency. 2 years ago, Monday and Tuesday was a free-for-all. The Jaguars signed everybody. Last year, there was literally nothing that happened. This year, I think it's going to be somewhere in the middle. I don't think it's going to be a free-for-all next Monday or Tuesday, but I do think there will be some acquisitions. I would guesstimate maybe 3 or 4 new Jaguars by next Wednesday. What's your thought there?
I'm not sure if I'd go 3 to 4. I really think that they're mostly going to be, making bargain bin type moves. I'm not sure they're going to make these splash moves that people are projecting. I think a veteran center makes sense. I think a veteran corner makes sense. I'm not sure they're going to sign any of the guys at the very top of that list. But on the other hand, they have seemingly been connected to every big name potential guy, in one way or another. Reports from Minnesota saying that they'd be interested in Danielle Hunter. Obviously, reports yesterday from USA Today that they're one of the teams sniffing around on L'Jarius Sneed. So maybe making one splash move and then filling it in with bargain moves around would make sense.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm looking at too. One splash, then the rest kind of pick and choose, like the Jeff Okudahs and the Sheldon Rankins of the world. All right, John, Jaguar Report. It's a busy time. It's been a crazy week for the Jaguars. Next week for free agency, I'm sure you guys will have a lot of content over there.
Hey, thank you, my friend. I appreciate it.
Your home for Gators Hoops is 1010XL.
The Gators finish the regular season in Music City, Florida Vanderbilt, Saturday at 4 on 1010XL.
Wintertime at the Blue Crab House. You know what that means. Time for oysters. Buy them by the tray, broiled, half shell with Romano cheese, wine topping, or fried. And of course, each and every Wednesday, $1 oysters at the Blue Crab House. Serving Northeast Florida since 1996. Make reservations by calling 260-CRAB. Jacksonville's best, the Blue Crab House, off of San Jose on Jewington Creek Road.
Ready to join the team? The Jaguars and our stadium partners are hosting a job fair Wednesday, April 3rd to find enthusiastic new faces to serve as ushers, ticket takers, concessionaires, security, and more for the upcoming season. Stop by the Fields Auto Group Terrace Suite at Everbank Stadium from 3 till 8 p.m. on April 3rd to apply. Professional dress, a pen, and a smile are all you need, so stop by the job fair to be a part of Jaguars Game Day.
Equal Opportunity Employer.
Have you tried golfing at the improved Cimarron Golf Club? If you haven't, tell you what, you're missing out on the best deal in Jacksonville. Now, many of you have received a postcard in the mail, and of course, if you bring that with you, $45 plus tax to play. That includes a cart, lunch, and a beer at the brand new Stone Barrel Tap House. Now, go to the website, that is CimarronGolfClub.com, and sign up for the Wild One Loyalty Program. That's the Wild One Loyalty Program, and get all of these specials emailed to you from Cimarron.
Pross, I'm thinking about changing my name.
Again? You're already the media mogul, the straw that stirs the drink, the Duke of Pablo Bay. Now what?
Refer to me as Dreamfinders Danny Hicken.
What in the blazes? Is this a cash grab?
No, it's just that I believe so much in Dreamfinders Homes. 20 locations in Northeast Florida, official home builder of Jags and Gators. Great opportunity for first-time homeowners.
All right, Dreamfinders Danny it is.
Did I mention the lowest interest rates you can find? Visit DreamfindersHomes.com. Now let Dreamfinders Danny celebrate through the majesty of song. Dream finders.
Oh, brother.
I believe they will build
Make it
your
stop.
home just right.
Here's your 1010XL community calendar of local events and nonprofit groups helping people here at home.
If you'd like to work for the Jumbo Shrimp this season, bring your resume to 1-to-1 Financial Ballpark, Saturday, March 16th from 10 to 1. Learn more at jackshrimp.com.
The Wounded Warrior Project provides what medicine and technology can't: community, counseling, and a second chance. Find ways to help at woundedwarriorproject.org.
If you'd like to play in the Northeast Florida Cornhole Tournament at Wingate Park May 18th,
register at tsunami10u@mail.com.
it benefits Tsunami Fast Pitch Softball.
If you're between ages 16 and 24, you can learn a career in construction, electrical, plumbing, or masonry with free training from the AMI Kids Florida Registered Pre-Apprenticeship Program. Call 576-7337.
There's a critical need for all blood types. Please consider donating at a local blood donation center.
You can find out how to share your community event at 1010XL.com. This Date in Sports History is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
On March 7th, 2016, Peyton Manning announces his retirement from the NFL after 13 seasons with the Colts and 4 with the Broncos.
Jeff Prosser here. Need that garage floor redone? Pool deck? Patio? Well, I did my homework and found out there is only one company offering a lifetime warranty, Jack's Concrete Coating. How do they do it? They're the certified Pintech dealer for North Florida, so they are the only company offering pure polyurea. Trust me, I can speak firsthand to their work, and it is awesome. Go to jacksconcretecoatings.com or call 904-862-2000.
Hey gang, Hicken here. March is Workplace Eye Wellness Awareness Month. Here's a tip for those in front of a computer all day. Follow the 20-20-20 rule. Set a timer as a reminder to look 20 feet away every 20 minutes for 20 seconds. This can be as simple as looking away from your computer screen or out the window. If virtual meetings keep you in your seat for extended time, shut your eyes for 20 seconds. Call or visit bowdeneye.com today to schedule your consultation. Bowden Eye, keeping the First Coast focused.
I'm with Greg from Cycles of Jacksonville, and I always tell you, hey, what's hot on the street, but what is hot on the water right now?
We've got some big news from Honda. They have a boat coming out, and much like they did with their jet, they went out and partnered with an industry leader in Scout Boats. He's making the hull for them, but everything else in the boat is all Honda.
So you're talking in the next handful of days and weeks, we will see Honda on the water at your show.
It'll be on the
On to cyclesofjacksonville.com. They are in the marine business with Honda. Keep track of it right there on Atlantic near Regency.
Hello, First Coast. I'm sure by now you have seen our bright green GFL trucks and containers throughout the greater Jacksonville area. We're an industry leader in solid waste and would love the opportunity to earn your business. We're committed to customer service, reliability, and have an unwavering focus on safety. Whether commercial or construction, let us haul your waste away. Call 904-760-5880 to get a quote today. From GFL, Green for Life.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Let's ring up another guest on the All-Pro Roofing phone line.
Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville, we are glad you are with us. Boy, it's a busy time in the world of sports. Franchise tags just got handed out in the NFL, including right here to Josh Allen in Jacksonville. We got NFL free agency next week, and the NBA playoffs are right around the corner. And right now, things are looking very good for both Orlando and Miami there in the Eastern Conference. Let's talk about all of it with Josh Buckhalter, Heavy.com. He's always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Josh, how we doing?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me back.
Hey, Josh, always appreciate the time. All right, Josh Allen, the franchise tag. That's bad news here because it likely means the departure of Calvin Ridley. I suppose they could bring Calvin back, but I don't like their chances if he hits the market on Monday, March the 11th. Josh, what was your reaction when you found out Allen is franchised, Ridley is now going to be a free agent?
I was intrigued because I think we've heard all along kind of that Josh Allen was going to be among the guys who would be tagged with the franchise tag, but the Ridley aspect of it, I think, is more interesting because he's going to have a plethora of suitors on the open market. He's got a guy who's been kind of under the radar the last couple of years, not because of where he's playing, just because of the situation that he came into when he got to Jacksonville and coming from, I guess you could say. And now he's going to have a chance to reestablish himself as one of the premier perimeter threats, which he was before he had the gambling incident. So I'm really intrigued about, if the Jaguars make an attempt to bring him back, or if this is just a situation where they're kind of, it's fait accompli that he's going to sign some monster deals elsewhere.
Well, it's a perfect storm for Jacksonville because they did not get the deal done with Allen. Trent Baalke, the GM, said in his statement that, they ran out of time. Well, that's preposterous because you didn't even start negotiating with him till a couple of weeks ago. So you, Trent, didn't start quick enough, I guess. And that's the way it's being received here in Jacksonville. But on Ridley's end, he's 29. He's never been a free agent. He's clearly wide receiver 1 on the market. And this may literally be the last time he is a free agent that's going to get a big payday. So I just think there's going to be a team, Josh, that's going to price Jacksonville out of the market.
Yeah, and that's always the fear that you have, right? And it's easy to look at the front office and say that they didn't get the job done, but it takes two to tango, and we don't know what both sides were asking for in those negotiations. It's risky to just assume that it wasn't in the players' court to also sign the deal that was on the table, or to bring an offer that was more palatable to the table. It takes two, like I said, but when Ridley hits this market, man, it's going to be maybe not a frenzy, right? Because I don't know if we'll see somebody frenzy for a player who is 29 years old, who is coming off of seasons where you maybe don't see the top end production that you might have wanted to from a guy you're going to be sinking this much money into. But he's going to have his options available, and it doesn't seem likely that a reunion with Jacksonville next season is coming.
Josh Buckhalter of Heavy.com. Josh Allen did get the franchise tag along with many other players around the league. That's always an interesting situation. You hope it's going to happen long term. You hope there's not issues between he and the organization. But clearly, Josh, they could not let Allen get out of Jacksonville. They had to franchise him.
Yeah, listen, you got to do it, even if it's just to buy yourself more time and give yourself the control of what happens next. I think that when you look at, like, in Chicago, you have the Bears applying the franchise tag to Jalen Johnson, but they use the non-exclusive. So Johnson can still go out and find himself a deal, but the Bears won't be left with nothing if he does go and do so. So it's all about making sure that you have some kind of leverage. And, when you look into it, I'm trying to find out if they'll use the non-exclusive or the exclusive for Josh Allen here. But the bottom line is you have to have some kind of control because players are going to get paid. This is the time of the year when teams go out desperate and overspend for talent. And Josh Allen, if he'd hit the open market, would have been the top pass rusher on the open market. So it was the lesser of two evils when you compare it that way to what happens with Calvin Ridley next. But it's definitely setting them up for an interesting situation this offseason.
You mentioned Chicago. Let's look broad overview at the NFL. Again, free agency set to begin on Monday. We still don't have clarity with Justin Fields, right? You and I talked about a month ago, and at that point, I think the thought was Caleb Williams, and they would have traded Fields by now. But now the combine in the rearview mirror, the league calendar begins next week. What are we hearing with Justin Fields right now in Chicago?
The talk at large is that the market is quiet for him, and that the Bears are maybe looking at some diminished returns on what they might get back. In my estimation, I'm not sure how realistic that is, because while people are quick to tell you that it's you only need one team to be desperate, I'm telling you that there's going to be a team that is desperate, because when we look at the market for quarterbacks out there, you have the Baker Mayfields, the Kirk Cousins potentially, the Russell Wilsons, right? There's not that many options who you're going to say are clear-cut better than Justin Fields. So some GM is going to feel like he did not get maximized in Chicago. They're going to feel like they can put him in their system, in their building, in their organization, and get the most out of him. So I'm not as worried per se as others might be about his trade value, but I will say that I think they're going to have between now and the draft to actually get something done, because you don't want to go into a position where teams are able to say, well, if we didn't do nothing now, let's go ahead and just draft our guy, and we don't have to worry about trading for your guy who might be damaged.
We're still of the opinion Caleb Williams goes number 1 to Chicago?
I would be completely baffled and shocked if it was any other pick than Caleb Williams at this point.
Yeah, I agree with that. Some people are starting to press the Jaden Daniel button. I think I saw Louis Riddick was one of those guys, but ultimately I do think it'll be Caleb Williams. All right, free agency as a whole. Let's begin quickly. Again, Josh Buckhalter, Heavy.com. You mentioned Russell Wilson. What kind of market will he have next week?
I think Russell might have to be. He might be in between Cousins and Fields, where he's waiting on Cousins to pick his next destination. He'll probably be a secondary option if the team that pursues Cousins doesn't have somebody in their building that they like as well. We don't know necessarily if he's going to want to compete for a starting job. It doesn't sound that way, but he does sound he's going to take a discount. So that might be the added incentive that a team will need to go ahead and say, you know what, we'll take a chance on Russell Wilson. A team like the Las Vegas Raiders, a team like Atlanta, if Cousins decides to go back to Minnesota, Atlanta could look at Russell Wilson, because I do think that his play was overshadowed by the extra stuff that was going on in Denver last season. Russell Wilson was not the problem in Denver, and as we're seeing in the wake of his departure, he's been getting a lot of support from his teammates, especially on that offensive side of the ball. So I think he'll have a better market than it might have appeared when it all started appearing that he was going to be out in Denver.
There does appear to be an awful lot of smoke around Kirk Cousins to Atlanta. Are you buying that?
I'm buying that until the Vikings make the deal official with Kirk Cousins, anything is possible, and he has the strongest ties there. So as we get further, I think I would be more inclined to say, yeah, Kirk's probably going to leave, because if they were going to keep him, I'm not sure what the holdup is at this point. So the longer it goes, yes, the more convinced I am that Kirk is probably going to be elsewhere next season, and it seems likely that would be in Atlanta.
When you look at the other big free agents, Christian Wilkins, Chris Jones, there's a lot of veterans, a lot of really good players. How would you assess the free agent market as a whole as we enter it next Monday?
I think it's rife with talent, and I think we'll see some movement. I'm not sure how many guys are going to actually change teams, but you're going to see some splashes. Chris Jones could go. He said he wants to go back, but we've seen that movie before, where sometimes it's time to reset in certain ways. I don't know how the Chiefs will replace him. So that might be the one that one of the teams that wants to make sure they get their guy back. But you're going to see a lot of secondary movement in the market. The receivers, Darnell Mooney. Like I said, we're going back to Chicago, but Darnell Mooney to the Chiefs could be a nice a match there. You have other players that are going to be out there. Kendrick Bourne from the Patriots, like players that maybe have gotten forgotten in the past couple of years, are going to make a resurgence, because teams are going to be thinking with an eye towards the draft as well. So you might not see the major changing of big names, but you're going to see some of those mid-tier guys pop back up on your radar. Like we talked about Calvin Ridley, Kendrick Bourne. You're going to see big payments go out to the defensive side, Danielle Hunter. Josh Allen's not going to be out there, but I think Rayshawn Jenkins from Jacksonville is going to get another shot at a big contract, because he was a solid player, and it kind of surprised me to see him get the boot there, to be honest with you.
Yeah, the Jaguars cut 3 defensive starters, Jenkins, Williams, and Fatukasi. Final NFL topic. Boy, the running back market is insane, right? They didn't franchise Saquon in New York. You throw him in with Derrick Henry and Tony Pollard and Josh Jacobs and DeAndre Swift and all these guys. I mean, what a running back market it is on free agency.
Yeah, I hate to be a negative Nancy here, but I'm concerned that this might actually work against them, because there are a plethora of options for teams to go to, and we know that teams prefer to not spend big money. Now, that being said, that the top tier talent that is on the market. I think Saquon will get paid. I think that Josh Jacobs will get paid. I'm wondering about Tony Allen. I think he might have to go and get the prove it deal, or Tony Pollard rather. He might have to go and get the prove it deal, because it didn't work out with him as the bell cow in Dallas. We've seen Saquon and Josh Jacobs do it. We haven't necessarily seen it work out for Tony Pollard. So I am, though, like I said, just concerned that the overall amount of talent out there will leave teams with options, might drag on the market, and then might see them get passed up for younger, cheaper options, and they'll have to kind of take lesser than we might think for their talent.
Final moments with Josh Buckhalter of Heavy.com. All right, you not only cover the NFL, you also cover the NBA. I'm a beloved Orlando Magic fan. My beloved Orlando Magic, they've been awful for 15 years going on. They've had a cup of coffee in the playoffs a couple of times, really, since Dwight Howard left. And all of a sudden, Josh, here we are. There's something 10 games over 500. They sit, at the time you and I are talking, at 4th in the Eastern Conference, ahead of both New York and Philadelphia. Boy, one of the surprises in the league, I guess, right now, the Orlando Magic.
So I can tell you, as a person who follows the Bulls very closely, that this is not a surprise to me. From the moment that the Bulls and the Magic made the trade for Nikola Vucevic, the Magic have kind of been the team that I think many Bulls fans, if not most Bulls fans, have kept an eye on, just to see how things have progressed with the assets that the Bulls gave up. After that, you would probably say the Spurs, and then the Pelicans with Lonzo Ball. But for the Magic to have this ascension is the pattern that I think many hoped the Bulls would be on if they had stayed with the younger players. You got the Franz Wagner that's developing to such a nice weapon. I don't know if you want to even call him a star. I call him a star. He's really grown into a player that I did not see coming when he entered into the league. And then Paolo Banchero is everything he's been billed to be and more, and so fast. And I think that those two things together have made it to be not surprising, but reaffirming of what you thought it could be when they started putting these pieces together. And then getting Markelle Fultz back healthy, I think is an underrated aspect of you guys' success this season. What are you, in the last 17 games, or 13-4 or something like that?
Yeah, 13-4, because they're finally healthy. They've been injured a lot. And Wendell Carter, I know that's the MO on him coming out of Chicago, but he's been healthy as of late. You mentioned Wagner, Banchero, and that bench, man. I could tell you, Joe Ingles, Jonathan Isaac, Cole Anthony, you mentioned Markelle Fultz. All of those guys could very easily be starters in the league. They all come off the Magic bench along with Mo Wagner. They got one of the deeper teams in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I think, and to your point earlier, the one thing I think that would be surprising is that they're all still so young and they're doing this. And that probably is the only surprise. And maybe if you want to talk about in the postseason concern, we know how success is rewarded or experience rather is rewarded in the postseason. So, but they can surprise the team too. This is a really strong group. And like I said, when you've been following the breadcrumbs over the last few years, there's really not much surprise to it, man. This is just it's really good to see a plan kind of materialize like this.
Josh, as we begin to wrap up, the Eastern Conference as a whole, will the playoffs be the Boston Celtics Invitational, or will somebody challenge them?
Milwaukee will challenge them, but I'm not sure that there'll be too many more challenges after that. Of course, we can never count out Miami. And then if Embiid can get back healthy and right, I guess you'll throw them in there as well. But I think it's Boston versus the world, and Milwaukee's just leading the world right now.
You mentioned Chicago. Billy Donovan, obviously a icon in our parts. Is he okay job-wise after this season?
For the organization, yes. Fan base is kind of mixed at this point, and I would argue that I don't know if Billy has been given the proper assets that he has needed. He's openly spoken about things that the team has needed, especially this past deadline. He said that they needed a bigger forward. They did not get that for them, and they're dealing with injuries, and it kind of shows on a nightly basis. They've overcome a lot of it because I think he does a better job than he gets credit for a lot of times. But he seems secure. He got an extension before last season, so his job should be safe. But the public sentiment has definitely turned a lot since he first arrived.
Josh, tell us about Heavy.com and other outlets where people can find your work.
Check out Heavy.com for all the latest and the biggest news in sports, NFL, the NBA, also bringing in some college football and basketball and MLB as well. And you can also check me out at ClockerSports.com.
Absolutely love it. We love Heavy.com, yourself, Sean Devaney, among many guys that we have over there at Heavy.com. Josh, really appreciate the time, man. Thank you as always. We'll do it again after free agency, and we'll see where the dust has settled here in Jacksonville. Appreciate you, my friend.
Thanks for having me, man. Anytime.
More football.
Give me the ball.
More sports talk.
That's the foundation of this team.
More Jacksonville.
An entire city.
1010XL.
Bring it in, guys.
When you want more.
Hey, Hicken here. I couldn't be any happier than to join the George Moore Chevrolet family. When I say family, I mean it. Visit their beautiful showroom today off Atlantic Boulevard. Find out exactly what I'm talking about. No pressure, just friendly help. And whether you want a car, a truck, SUV, electric, pre-owned, you name it, George Moore Chevrolet has it. And if you can't make it over to Atlantic Boulevard, no problem. MooreChevy.com is easy to navigate as any site you will try. It's never been more easy to use. George Moore Chevrolet. Together, let's drive.
Warm weather means the beach, fishing, golf, and more. Make sure to drop into Daly's and grab a cold case to go. From Bud Light to their seltzer, from Mick Ultra to Modelo, or your favorite crafts like Old City or Sweetwater. Grab and go at your local Daly's.
The IRS is the most powerful collection agency on earth, and if you owe back taxes, the news isn't good. The IRS is raising the interest rate it charges on unpaid taxes, and further rate hikes are expected. Most people don't know it, but the IRS adds interest charges to your tax debts daily. So if you owe the IRS today, you'll owe even more tomorrow. And it doesn't stop until you get right with the IRS. The good news is getting right can start with one phone call to Optima Tax Relief, America's America's #1 tax relief firm. Optima's tax professionals specialize in the Fresh Start Initiative, a powerful IRS program that can save you thousands if you qualify. In fact, the experts at Optima have resolved over $1 billion in tax debt for their clients. Call now for a free consultation.
Call 800-348-0269. 800-348-0269. 800-348-0269.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Local 234 Plumbers, Pipe Fitters, and HVAC Technicians is now taking applications for their state-certified apprenticeship program. As an apprentice, you'll receive excellent benefits, higher pay, job placement, and even earn college credit. The 5-year programs include plumbing, pipe fitting, welding, and HVAC. A career as a journeyman means stability and security. For more information, visit ua234.com/apprenticeship. Local 234. Make the right connection.
It's kind of like his own private locker, and you're his guest.
Every time we talk, I'm reinvigorated by my love of the game.
Hayes Carline here. Find my blog at 1010xl.com.
Hayes Blog is brought to you by Roland Reach Plumbing, where quality and experience count.
Tim McGraw. In concert. The Standing Room Only Tour 2024. A night filled with your favorite songs. 5-Star Veterans Memorial, March 14th. With special guest Carly Pierce. Get tickets now at Ticketmaster.com. Don't miss Tim McGraw, live in Jacksonville.
Has someone you care about been arrested or had their driver's license taken away? I'm Susan Cohen, and I work with David Robbins at the law firm of Epstein & Robbins. We are experienced fighters for those charged with DUI, domestic violence, and all criminal offenses. In your battle with the justice system, there's only one thing you need to know. Dial David 24/7 at Epstein & Robbins, 354-5645. 354-5645.
Hey, this is David here with Royal Pest Services. Do you have that room in the house that is just too cold in the winter and just too hot in the summer? To learn about our pest-rated insulation, visit RoyalPestServices.com or call 886-2847.
New and pre-owned firearms are always in stock at Beach's Jewelry and Pawn in Jacksonville Beach. Want a new sidearm or rifle? Brands like Kimbar, Smith & Wesson, Sig Sauer, and Beretta. No lines, no hassle. Beach's Jewelry and Pawn in Jacks Beach.
If your ride is making strange noises, don't wait and make it worse. Come to Action Transmission on Merrill Road. My expert technicians can diagnose the problem and likely fix it fast. Experience the difference at Action Transmission on Merrill Road.
Dave Binion here with my son Ammon, who is the air duct cleaning manager at Zero Res. So Ammon, you may notice a little rattle in my voice and some puffiness in my eyes. That's because allergy season is coming on. Can Zero Res help?
Yes, your health has a lot to do with the air you breathe. A clean and healthy home begins with clean air. At Zero Res, we can help clean the air in your home by cleaning your air ducts, cleaning the coils in your HVAC units, and fogging the system with a powerful antimicrobial that helps kill and control the growth of microorganisms in your air. We also have options for maintaining your clean air with our excellent inline air purifier and UV lights that will help keep your system clean and healthy. At Zero Res, we are more than just air duct cleaners. We're a clean air specialist.
Have Zero Res air duct specialists out, and right now we'll give you $50 off your air duct cleaning, and while we're at it, we'll give you $50 off your dryer vent cleaning. Zero Res.
Spelled forward or backwards, it's the right way to clean.
CEROREC. Zero Res.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
And thank you to Josh Buckhalter, Heavy.com, for joining us tonight here on Hacker After Dark. As NFL free agency about to heat up in a big way, and the NBA postseason right around the corner. Really is a great time in the world of sports. Again, the Players is next week. Conference tournaments are going on and will continue next week. And, of course, March Madness is right around the corner. So there is a ton that we will be doing over the next couple of weeks here on Hacker After Dark. The big news of tonight, Ezra Cleveland re-signing in Jacksonville earlier today. 3 years, a little over $28 million. $14 million of that is guaranteed. The Jaguars also re-signed special teams player Daniel Thomas, maybe the best special teams player on the team, certainly one of them. So Daniel Thomas and Ezra Cleveland now back in the fold for the Jaguars after re-signing today. We still have no clarity on Calvin Ridley, although I imagine we will get some on Monday when the NFL free agency period, the legal tampering portion of that, does indeed kick off. Well, that'll just about do it. It has been a very busy Thursday night here on Hacker After Dark. We certainly appreciate you guys hanging out with us here on 1010XL and on 92.5 FM. We have a ton of people to thank. Again, Josh Buckhalter, Heavy.com, covering the NFL and the NBA. Thank you to John Shipley of Jaguar Report for talking Jags, talking Josh Allen, Calvin Ridley, and the Ezra Cleveland re-signing. Thank you to David Waters of the Gators Breakdown podcast. Of course, Florida has begun spring football. Their first practice was today, and we appreciate David for spending some time with us here this evening. And back in hour number one, Mike DeRocco, my buddy D-Rock of ESPN.com, as we talk Jaguars and looked ahead to free agency next week. Now, we will be back tomorrow night up a little bit. Baloo is off, so we'll be up 6 to 8 here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM to close out the week, and we do hope that you join us then. Dylan Denmark was your producer tonight. Dylan, I missed you, man. Great to have you back. As Denmark was your producer, I'm the hacker Ryan Green. And again, Jacksonville, thank you for spending part of your Thursday evening with us right here on Hacker After Dark on 1010XL and on 92.5 FM.
1010XL is here